fife and drum started out, actually the drum is reported to have come as the military drum from the Crusades. When the Crusaders went off and came back, they came back with the drum. The fife was said to develop in Switzerland among the flute makers there as basically a military style of a Baroque flute. It was often used in the Swiss mercenaries, which went around Europe and made the instrument popular. The first recorded battle that the fife was used in was in 1515 in northern Italy. But it didn't become real popular until more of the 1700s, as the fife and drum were both used then. In the 1600s, the drum became very popular, and Queen Elizabeth was even said to have drums in her court that would play sometimes in some of the concerts there. In the 1700s, it was used in many of the European armies there. The French and Indian War, for example, they would have used it. Although it started to fall out of favor in Europe due to more advanced military bands, but in America it held on longer. During the American Revolution, it was used in George Washington's army. Many of the fifes at that point were so homemade that they were in all sorts of different keys, and that they would just group the fifes into regiments based on roughly the fifes that were kind of similar keys. It probably didn't sound real pretty in the early years, but eventually got more standardized. By the War of 1812, they had military issue fifes and drums in the Fife and Drum Corps there, and militia units throughout America's early period would have used fife and drum. During the Civil War, of course, they used many fife and drummers. During the war, thousands of fifers and drummers were used, and it involved training a lot of fifers and drummers. By the time the war ended, there was all these surplus fifers and drummers. So what happened that when they went back to civilian day-to-day life, they often formed civilian fife and drum corps, often affiliated with like the firefighters group or a police group, and would form groups like there. In fact, in Denver, there was a fife and drum corps formed in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and it actually performed at the Republican convention that Teddy Roosevelt was nominated as president. Although throughout the early 1900s, fife and drum, as well as some of the brass bands that were used in the Civil War, began to develop into modern marching bands, which we often see today. So this is often sort of the roots of the marching band tradition. During the Civil War, they were used as both as a morale booster, something you'd play on long marches, sometimes special concerts, on dress parades. They were also used as duty music. So they would play reveille, they would wake them up in the morning, they'd tell them when to eat, they would tell all the different commands, even in battle. Especially the drums were used to tell different maneuvers, when to fire, etc. So we're going to play some more here. We'll play two patriotic tunes that were used during the Civil War, used by both sides, Dixie and Rally Round the Flag.